what is the temperament of the Nashville MSA housing market right now? Any opportunity?
I think there's still a lot of opportunity here. Nashville's, it's just growing out more and more, which is exciting to see. When you're a seller, you want multiple people wanting your house and knocking down your door. And I think that's starting to happen a little more.
Well, I'm excited about today. I got a good friend here. He's been friends with us for a couple of years, and we've done a lot of business together. He is on the #1 real estate team in Nashville as far as list sides
And sales.
and sales side.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because most people think the people they see on the billboards and the cars and everything are the #1. This guy gets it done, so I'm really, really super excited to have my good friend Will Andrews here with the Knox team today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
excited to be here.
What part of town were you coming over from?
So I work in Green Hills, but live in Bellevue on the west side. So grew up over on that side of town as well. So born and raised in Nashville. It's crazy.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
You're like that small percentage.
Yeah,
it's like
they call
native.
us the unicorns, So, but yeah, it's crazy to see how it's grown.
You and your wife. Where's your wife came from? Ohio.
Ohio, yeah.
Yeah,
She's
okay.
from Ohio. We got 2 kids,
Yeah.
4 and 5. So we're busy.
In real estate, especially right now when you have to hustle.
That's right.
So you just said something. Let's dive into it. You just said something that sparked my curiosity. You go into the office on a pretty regular basis. Is it every Monday you go in?
I go almost every day. I try to go. Being in COVID lockdown, being at home, I just get antsy and I like being around people. So going to the office, I have like a routine to get there and get some things done.
Yeah, it makes me feel like when I go to the office, like, I can have my space, my routine. Mm-hmm. I feed on energy.
Right.
When I'm at home, just for some reason, I find, repairman stops by. Or,
right. You get sidetracked so easily, or it's like, oh, I have this show to catch up on or something. And you get away from what you're supposed to be doing.
So top real estate team in Nashville, multiple years in a row. What's a Monday look like for you?
Mondays, we typically meet in the office, kind of go through what we've got going on with each other, bounce ideas off one another.
Team meeting.
We have those on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
We used to have them on Mondays, but things have kind of shifted. We're changing things around, but being there, kind of talking to our team admin, what's going on, what we have going on, buyers, sellers, what we need. I kind of comb through emails that I might have missed over the weekend. Even though I'm always constantly looking at them. But and then I just start diving into MLS or reaching out to anybody that I've been talking to, getting an update on things. So I really set aside probably like an hour to 2 hours to make sure that I'm reaching out to the people that I'm in contact with, whether it's those buyers, sellers, lenders, whoever I need to be talking to.
Working the business.
Working the business, yeah.
You guys really seem to keep a pulse on like what is happening in Nashville. It seems critically important to you all. I saw you went to the event, I think it was maybe last week or the week before. Like, tell us a little bit about that. And, obviously it's a key to y'all's success, but like, what's that look like? How do y'all keep up with what's going on in Brandon and the people you work with?
I think Nashville's still a big little town. So a lot of it is like who you know, which is kind of, it feels icky to say, I think, but I think being plugged in and like knowing what's coming or who's doing what is very important to have the off-market knowledge or the local knowledge that maybe somebody can't get elsewhere if they're not on a team that is plugged in, that is talking to the builders, to the developers, to lenders or whoever, landowners. I mean, there's so many avenues out there that you kind of have to have a pulse on to understand what's going on.
I tell my team all the time, I'm like, people are busy. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, like that one follow-up 3 weeks ago, I mean, that could seem like it was a year ago to people.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, I don't know, talk about this a little bit, but I think realtors and lenders really struggle with follow-up. And I think it might be because they just don't really have something to bring or they're not sure what they're calling about. Like,
yeah. I mean, I fall into that sometimes too. It's like, I feel like I just reached out to them. Like, I can't do that. But there's been times where I'm like, oh, I talked to that person last month. I probably don't need to reach out to them again. And then I find out, oh, they just listed their house or there's they're in the market to buy, and it's like, oh dang, like you want to stay present in mind, but you don't want to be annoying. So it's kind of like a fine line that you want to walk there.
It's kind of like Instagram and social media, Facebook and all of that. It's like, oh, like you see a friend close on a house.
I know.
And you're
tough.
like, it's because you want to congratulate them. They're your friend.
Yeah,
My
sure.
friendship transcends business, but at the same time, I'm like, how did you not think of me?
Sure. Yeah.
And it was because I wasn't following up enough.
Oh, for sure. And, being born and raised here in Nashville, like I still know a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that are buying houses, doing transactions that I'm like, well, like I didn't think to reach out to them, or I was a bad friend and haven't talked to them in a while. So it's just kind of like you gotta go through grow some thick skin pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the people that have not used me have become some of my greatest clients the second and third time.
Sure.
So I had a mentor one time told me, always lose gracefully.
Right.
And that's a little tough for me, being from the north. I get a little fiery sometimes.
My wife's the same way.
I'm competitive. I want to win.
Yeah.
So let's talk about winning in Nashville right now, because we have so many, like a lot of my friends will watch this, and your friends, they're outside of Nashville. Right. Music City's hot. It's had a bullseye on it for years now.
Right.
What is the real like temperament of the Nashville MSA housing market right now? Any opportunity?
I mean, I think there's still a lot of opportunity here. I feel like the inventory's down a little bit just because a lot of these people are in these low interest rates and they're not wanting to leave their house, which I totally understand. But that doesn't mean that these people still aren't moving here and they're needing a place to live. So Nashville's, it's just growing out more and more, which is exciting to see. I mean, Cool Springs, where we are, was farmland when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And my dad and grandfather helped develop this area. They owned a bunch of the land and worked with a bunch of people to develop it. And so, like, I remember coming out here and being like, Dad, what are we doing here? And it was farmland. And now it's like exceeding even beyond, because Spring Hill is booming.
Crazy.
And, the car manufacturers are all moving here. And I think within the next 5 years, we're supposed to be the number one state in the country of developing or putting out cars. So it's kind of just like, who would have thought that would ever be here? But with so many people moving here, the market is still moving. It's still very fluid, and there's a lot of buyers. The sellers, I feel like, are a little down, but it doesn't mean that you can't get what you want for your house right now.
It's feeding the market, but as far as like not enough, like we would like to see more, is fueled by the sellers right now. And, I remember years ago someone explained the music industry and why so many people from Los Angeles were moving out here, and they called it the wagon wheel approach. You ever heard of that?
I haven't, no.
So most tours that start like in the Northeast, or they start out West, they have to go across on a tour. Like Morgan Wallen, he's like, I'm gone for a year, right?
Right.
Well, when you got a family, and so what people would do is move to Nashville because of its proximity. Yeah. They could go do a show in Chicago, be back that night for the weekend, right?
Yeah.
They could go back and do another show and come back. And I think that formula, the logistics industry has picked up on too, like with 840 and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, that's what's feeding the market is demand, lifestyle. The having inventory is a different issue, which is not necessarily a bad issue for us.
No, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it keeps the market competitive for sure. Because when you're a seller, you want multiple people wanting your house and knocking down your door. And I think that's starting to happen a little more as the weather heats up. Kind of the market tends to go with that. So
I have a lot of friends that will ask me, they'll be like, so can you get a deal in Nashville? I'm like, I don't necessarily say you would get a deal, but there's been a lot of people that have done really well for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're willing to say, hey, I'll take some hair off the top on this one just so I can get it off the books.
Sure.
I want to go build some more.
Yeah, 100%.
And talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what's that fine line with clients where they're like, oh, these people are desperate, or I want to make this offer. Like, it's a big struggle, isn't it? Kind of getting people back to that baseline.
Back to the baseline. I think, we were so hot through COVID and cash offers, over asking, waiving contingencies. I mean, it was just kind of a wild time. And so I think some of these people listing their houses are still trying to live in that world.
Yes.
But we're getting to the new norm of like, all right, the interest rates aren't in the 2s and 3s, they're in the 7s.
Right.
And you're listing your house like it's in the 2 and 3s in this neighborhood that maybe doesn't call for that. So it's kind of a struggle, and then you don't want to offend anybody with an offer like, oh, you're listed at 500, but your house is really worth $4. I'm going to offer you 380. It's like, that doesn't make sense. So you got to, it's another fine line of trying to thread that needle to get your buyer or whoever you're representing a deal, and making it make sense from both sides.
I will say, and I don't see this with y'all's team, but I work with a lot of great realtors, and I work with realtors that are newer and stuff. And I will say that the people that I see get beat out most of the time, it's in the presentation of the offer.
Sure.
One thing I tell my agents lots of times is like, hey, do a 5-day contingency period.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I'll get the appraisal back within 5 days.
Yeah.
And that 5-day contingency, you could even waive the appraisal.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if I'm a seller and my family has to wait 21 days to put things in boxes versus 5 days, which offer am I going to take?
Yeah.
Right? And then the below market interest rate, a lot of people don't realize this is the one that, like, if you were to ask me what's the biggest thing that, like, makes you want to pull my hair out, is you can get a below market interest rate similar to 2021 right now. Just people don't think about it.
Right.
Because they think price is number one, and it's not. The number one thing in that NAR survey, 65 pages, was affordability,
right?
The monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could go to a seller like the gentleman I was just telling you about off camera, I mean, he negotiated a $50,000 credit on his $2 million home. He was able to buy that interest rate down into the 4s.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
And so that is going to make a much, much bigger reduction in his monthly payment than getting $50,000 off the price of the home.
Oh, for sure.
But which one's easier for you to present to a seller, $50,000 off the home or $25,000 concession?
I mean, I think the concession is always the way to go. I mean, I think that they see that sales number and they're locked in on that sales number until you break it out to like, oh, what you're actually coming home with. It's hard to understand. And so I think, we're in a market where concessions have been ticking up, I think, to get things done. So, I feel like that's more the norm now than it has been over the past 5-6 years.
I've told you guys, let's talk a little bit about new construction. I was talking to someone about this morning, and they were getting ready to hit a new listing on the market. And I said, hey, sell it like a builder. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, yeah, we will. I said, no, set it up right from the ground up, going into it, sell it like a builder. Go in there and offer that. If the number one objection right now is affordability and payment, then address the issue right out of the gate. Be anticipatory. Yeah. And say, hey, well, if you buy this home, and we've done this on y'all's listings, where it's like, hey, you can get a rate as low as 4.75 right now. And people are like, wait, how do you do this? You keep the purchase price high in the neighborhood. The buyer gets what they want, which is the low interest rate. And, the seller's happy because they not going to have a low comp in the neighborhood. Right. It's
100%.
When realtors are happy because the sales price stays a little higher, right?
For sure, yeah.
So, talk to us about new construction right now. Is it saturated in Nashville? Is it kind of a mixed bag, a la carte? Like, what's going on with new construction?
I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think that we're seeing people rush through getting some new construction up there that maybe isn't the highest quality work because, again, they're trying to tail in on the end of the COVID crazy years where you can throw anything up and it was going to sell. So I think that we're getting into an area where it's like either renovations or new builds where you can see the quality of the work or the lack thereof that's kind of showing through. And as things kind of get more competitive, I think it's going to weed out some of these ones that maybe they would have thrived in the older market, but now they're going to struggle a little bit to get their product sold.
Y'all work with some amazing builders in Nashville. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate to work with some amazing builders. And then there's those other guys, we call them pickup truck builders. Yeah. They were like, I'm not going to work the corporate job in America. I'm going to build some houses. And it was all fine and dandy in 2019, 2020, 2021. Yeah. But I think what's happening is a lot of people, just like America does, is they sometimes live right up to their means. Sure. And then those houses sit on the market for a couple of months, and that interest will crush somebody. Oh, and then they're taking a loss. They're just desperate to sell it. So there are those deals out there where you can, if you see a house that's been sitting 3, 4, 5 months, and there's someone on the other side that's having to make those payments. Yeah. And at some point they just
want to be done with it. So there's those deals that you can go in there and really get something good for your clients right now.
What's the spec build market like? Do you know anything about that? Like if I was a spec builder and I went to a bank right now, is the temperament? I mean, are banks like, no way? Or are there banks still allowing people to build houses out of the ground?
I think it depends on your reputation and like what you've done before in your portfolio. Like I'm sure that they'll give it to, a really well-known builder that has a pro forma laid out of what they're expected to do. I'm not so sure on that as far as like smaller builders on if they're going to get those. Maybe their rate might just be higher on getting that construction loan.
I think the first question I would be asking people is, not that the market's bad, it's just where we're at right now. I would be like, so you want to do a new start spec? Like, what are you smoking?
Yeah.
Just because if it was me, I wouldn't be thinking about just throwing a big old spec on the ground right now. But what's crazy, man, is I still see them coming out of the ground. I still see them selling.
Yeah. I mean, again, like there's all these people moving here. They got to go somewhere. And if people aren't going to sell their house because they're like, oh, I have a 2.9 interest rate, like, why would I ever leave?
Yeah.
And so, the only way to get people in homes is to build them. And
so you really, really worked hard on your career. Your media girls here today with us. I've started seeing you put more content out.
Yeah.
Your team really takes it seriously. But like last couple of years as you're building, like it's not easy.
No.
What would you tell a real estate agent that's watching this that is only a couple of years in the business and they're like, I want to get to the level of where Will and the Knox team are at? Like what are 2 or 3 things that you're just like, hey, focus on this?
I try to pride myself on like my relationships and being, nice, friendly to people. I think you can burn some bridges if you're disrespectful or, how you carry yourself is maybe a little off center. So I build my business a lot on relationships and being able to, understand somebody, where they're coming from, what they really need and want, and try to, build that friendship through whatever I'm doing, whether that's with other realtors or with clients or whoever it is. I feel like, people want someone that they can trust and talk to. And I try to be that for people. So I think that's a big one for me. I think number 2 is becoming a master in the knowledge of the real estate world, being able to speak the language and understand, what's coming or what's happened in the past, what's worked and what's not, and just trying to educate yourself, to be the best of who you are. I'm lucky because I'm on a team with someone who I would think is, in the upper echelon of Nashville and the most knowledgeable in the market. So learning from him and from Brandon and trying to be a sponge and soak in everything he says, which is a lot. I have to ask him multiple times, like, all right, let's go through this one more time, slow it down for me. But, I'm lucky enough to be on a team where we take certain days throughout the week to comb through MLS or tax records or the Nashville government website to kind of look at different things and try to understand and learn, what different codes or what you can and can't do in certain situations. So
you just crushed that. So I told my wife I'm really trying to work on my listening skills. Number 1, you are the ultimate professional. So what that means is it's clear you tell people, hey, you are important to me, right? It also tells me that you're the type of guy that you say, hey, my relationship with you, my friendship, like transcends business. I think that's super important. And people are like, well, why didn't they call me? Well, they probably were worried that if they asked you a question or didn't go with you, how you would react. So they just stay away from it.
Sure.
You don't strike me that way. The second thing that I pick up from you is that you are a master of your craft. You work on it. You just talked about this.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, I look at the data. We go through this. Like, you have to study. You have to read. And I don't think a lot of people make that a priority throughout the week.
Sure.
And the third thing is I think you guys have a very unique value proposition, a UVP. And I don't think mortgage lenders and realtors really focus on that. I can clearly say, hey, I want an expert at new construction in Nashville. There's no doubt I'm going to be thinking about you guys.
Yeah.
And you've built that reputation because you post about it, you talk about it, you're around it, your videos show that you're in it. And I think that's really, really what separates you. But Yeah, man, I would say coming up underneath someone that's super successful
Yeah.
and just replicating what they're doing and letting them breathe into your life is the biggest blessing that can happen to anybody out there.
Oh, it's huge. And, you know, not even with him. I mean, there's other agents out there that like you might be nervous to go and ask a question, but I think everybody in their core wants to help others.
Yeah.
And so, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions, and there's no stupid question. So, you know, if you need help with something, like to go to someone that you think is more experienced and try to learn from them, like, oh man, how did you do that?
Right.
And try to figure that out.
I understand the passion for a company. Like I love our company, Cross Country. I've been here for almost 2 years now, and I love everything about it. But one thing I've had to realize, and I think the real estate industry needs to realize, is I don't think the consumer really cares who you work for.
Yeah.
They care more so about those 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of agents, they really just push that. My social media coach actually has been teaching me this. He says, he said, make content that doesn't have to be consumed by a mortgage or a realtor. And I thought about that, and I was like, wow, that makes sense. He said, because your news feed, if you were to look at your wife's news feed, what's in it, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agents, I did this, are still isolating themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, look at my new listing. Hey, I'm at a closing. That's wonderful.
Sure.
It'll be better for you to tell a story about that closing.
Yeah.
You know, or I see a lot of people talking, let's talk about this, the Parks and Compass merger.
Yeah.
And it's just like boom, boom, boom. And I get it. I'm excited too. I think it's awesome. But unfortunately, I don't think 90% of the public really cares about that.
No,
and don't send me any hate mail, okay? I'm just, you know, this segment's sponsored by Smoothie King. Send them the hate mail, okay? But let's talk about the Compass and Parks merger. Like, what type of advantage does that give you guys now?
I mean, I think that, you know, again, yeah, like you said, 99% of the people don't truly care that we're merging, or they don't know what it means. They just want you to look out for what is in their best interest if you're working for them. But with the merger, you know, it puts us in owning 25% of the market in Nashville.
Whoa.
So
a quarter of the market.
So if you want to see what's coming or what's coming soon, like you're going to have to come to the Compass agents, the Parks agents, to understand, you know, what's out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's really special that, you know, that we're going to control at least 25% and hopefully more as we grow and, you know, work together on owning more of the market.
When you're a part of an organization and somebody else you're working with is a part of an organization, it's easier to maintain a culture and a working relationship. And I think one thing that I take away from Compass and Parks is that you guys have a great culture. Like I see you celebrating together. I see events. You know, I met Mr. Parks years ago because I was from Murfreesboro, and I remember the first time that I, you know, really bumped into him, and I talked to him a little bit, and I was like, well, Mr. Parks, can I buy you lunch one day? Without hesitation, he said yes.
Yeah.
And then we had lunch every month for 12 months at Amerigo's right here in Cool Springs, and he just breathed into me. And every time I showed up, too, I would never see a cell phone.
Yeah.
He was always super calm, super professional, and he told me something, and I'll never forget this. He said, Sean, do you want to be cool and be liked, or do you want to be the ultimate professional?
Right.
And I said, I want to be the ultimate professional.
100%.
So that's where I went on like a 12-year kick of wearing suits and ties every day.
Yeah.
But what he means by that is, look, you know, I like to have a good time. I like to be relaxed also, but wearing flip-flops and shorts and backwards hats. And I do think that you're automatically not taking advantage of something. And you know, there are days that if you're showing properties in 90-degree weather, I get it.
Yeah.
Like there's nice, people are dressed nice wearing shorts and stuff, but I think you get where I'm getting with this. Like being the ultimate professional, you can never fail.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at you guys, and it's not about what you wear. You guys are ultimate professionals. You show
we
up.
try to be. Yeah.
You
I
really
think that, you know, within Compass and then within our own team, I think that we try to carry ourselves in a certain way to at least give off that we're professionals in what we're doing, and that we're gonna take care of you one way or the other. And you know, if we mess up, we'll own it and we'll fix it and make it right.
Let me ask you a question: as if I was taking off my loan officer hat and just interviewing you, and you could speak to them out there, to the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
You guys obviously get a lot of phone calls, a lot of text, a lot of emails, soliciting business and wanting to build relationships. And some people do it great, and others do it really, really bad. Yeah. My side is recruiting. Like I get so many recruiter emails, calls, text, LinkedIn. If you were giving some advice to the mortgage industry, like what would you give to them as far as like people calling you? Like, what would get your attention? What would be valuable to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the lenders that I've kind of latched onto are ones that I relate to and that are really personable, and we have similar interests, and just the conversation's easy and it doesn't feel salesy or like use me. Like I feel like, again, that goes back to how I kind of do things, is like I become friends with a lot of my clients, and I just want to make it like as stress-free as possible for most. And so working with someone that I can relate to and that, we can have a conversation outside of business is
Right.
I think that's nice for me. Cause I mean, I get something probably 5-6 times a week. Like, I'd love to take you to coffee or lunch, and, and I feel bad,
Me too,
putting people off or saying like, no, I can't, but like, I don't, I think that having those strong relationships with a few might be better than having friend relationships with many.
Yeah.
But that's just me. It could work in other ways for other people.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I sometimes I feel bad with like insurance, title, recruiters, and I'll use it as an opportunity to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, hey, can I give you some advice? Like, take 5 minutes and look up like Facebook and see that I have 2 girls and where I live, and like act like I'm not on a list.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And, am I going to give you like a big, huge shot? No, but I might have a conversation with you. And if you could show me enough value in that, and what I like about you, man, is like, we have that in common, is like people are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe every human being wants to hear 5 words. You are important to me.
Sure.
And I think you as realtors want to feel important.
Yeah.
You don't want to be one of 100 realtors out there.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like this. I tell people, I'm like, I don't have 25 people over here on this.
Mm-hmm.
These are my friends I'm doing business with. I want to help you. I don't know. There's always been something inside of me that like I always want to bring more value than what anybody ever expected.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like growing up with a single mom or what it is, but
yeah.
I think if more lenders focus on trying to bring value, true value.
Yeah. I think that, if you can show me the value and show me, that you care, I think that goes a long way.
What are you building on? What's coming in the next couple of years? You moved into your beautiful new home.
Yeah.
Like what's next, man? Like where would you like to be going over the next 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, we've got some exciting things in the works with our team. So that'll some stuff will be happening here soon. So that's exciting. Worked a neighborhood in Bellevue over the past couple of years. So we sold that out. Now I'm looking at kind of breaking into that world myself. So trying to find the right deal that makes sense for me in building or investing in something along those realms. Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I've wanted to like go out there and try to build my own property. We just built our farmhouse, and then we just did the pool, and I'm like, there's something special here because my wife, we're a great partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And like she managed our whole construction. She just managed our whole pool. Of course, people like a pretty beautiful woman like her. She's kind. She's not like me. She's flexible. That can also be a negative. I have to come in and be like, hey, budget stops here.
Right.
I need an update now.
Yeah.
But like we really, really would like to like try to build some spec homes or maybe build a home for, another home here down the road.
Yeah.
You guys always strike me as the type, you and your wife, Caitlin, as, you're entrepreneurs at heart.
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah. We've owned nail salons. We have other businesses, and she's consulting now. So, she is the true entrepreneur, and I'm just kind of grabbing the coattails and along for the ride.
She's sharp. She got a good, strong personality.
Mm-hmm.
She's just really, really sharp.
Yeah.
So you just went on a Disney cruise?
We did. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that was fun.
Before we finish up here today, tell us a little bit about the Disney cruise.
Oh, it was fun. Like I said, I have a 4 and a 5-year-old, so it was magical for them, seeing all the characters, doing all the fun things.
You recommend it? I
do. I mean, they dressed up, and everybody, the Disney crew in and of itself, they were just so nice. They knew all our names. I mean, it was pretty special. So that was fun to be there with them. So now I guess our next jump is to go to the parks at some point here when they can ride all the rides.
How old? You got 4-year-old and 5-year-old?
A 4 and a 5-year-old. Yeah.
You're almost there. I'd probably wait another year or two.
Right.
We took ours at 3 and 4 and 5, and I probably wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
But what's cool about Disney is, especially on those cruises, they have something called a dossier. And a dossier means they have information about every one of your family members.
Oh yeah.
And I've done that for years in my business. Like I will look people up before I talk to them, when I have a meeting with them, because again, people want to feel special. And Disney is magical at that, aren't they?
Oh, they did. Yeah, it was pretty special. So we had a great time.
I hope my wife doesn't see this because I've denied the Disney cruise for years now. So
no, it was terrible. Yeah, you shouldn't do it.
Costs too much money. We're in the mortgage industry right now.
Yeah, just put that money into building a house or something.
So over the next 6 months, talk about where you think the market's going to go. We don't have to get into politics. I have my own opinion on what I think's going to happen, and if it does, I think people better buckle up.
Yeah, but, I mean, for me, and correct me, I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. I think that as the election heats up, I think that we might see the rates kind of dip a little bit. I think it happens in every election cycle to try to win back some votes that are in the middle. So I think that we might start heating up here pretty soon as far as the interest rates coming down and the market getting a little more competitive.
I've been in the business for 2 decades in Nashville. This is this is completely different than what I've seen before, but I know enough to be dangerous. I also have a strong sense of discernment that I believe in, and I feel in my knower of my knowers right now that people have a very small, limited window. It's just like a stock. Oh, I should have bought GameStop again. Well, you should have, or I should have bought a house in 2021, 2020, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. History repeats itself, but our media has people like in this stronghold. But I think as we approach the election, I do think that you will see the rates go down. A lot of people argue and send me hate mail, and they say, well, the president doesn't control the Fed. Yes, but they have influence on it.
Right.
The president doesn't have control over a lot of things, but you end up seeing a lot of crazy stuff happening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you'll see rates probably come down. You'll see 6s in front of them still. We're down in the 6s, high 6s now.
Yeah.
I think we might see a 5 in front of it. Who knows? But I think springtime, beginning of next year, after we know, and people are like, okay, whether we like it or not, this is who our president is.
Yeah.
I can now make plans. I think Nashville specifically, we will be back to multiple offers and waiving appraisals.
For sure.
Our team right now is working on 5-day contingencies, 10-day closings, how to waive appraisal and protect our clients, because I think that if we practice it now, when we get in the fall, we will be valuable because we'll help you guys win offers.
Yeah. I think that's key. I mean, people always ask, when's the time to buy? And I always say now. I mean, get into that higher interest rate. You can always refinance out of it, or they're going to keep going.
You and me did it.
Yeah, we did.
We bought a house at the high of interest rates.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that if it's comfortable for you and you can make it happen, to get in now, and then you're either going to get in and the rates are going to go up and everybody's going to say, I wish I bought when you bought, or they're going to go down and you can refinance. So it's a win-win.
I don't have inheritance. I don't have some widget I discovered, and I don't know how to sing on Music Row. But so I got to be blue collar, and I got to work hard, So when I found out that you could buy a piece of real estate, could go up in value with a limited amount of a down payment, that's where I was like, wow, this is something I got to take advantage of.
100%.
And I just hope people understand that if you did miss in 2019, 2020, 2021, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you have another opportunity. Don't make the same mistake twice.
Right.
We built that house for about $2 million and it doubled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not smart enough, but that's my retirement right there.
100%.
And you do that a couple of times in your life before you're 60 years old.
Yeah.
You'll be set for life.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think there's so many programs and things out there where these people are like, I'll never be able to buy a house. And it's like, why? Right. Like, you totally can. And
or they're focused on that low rate.
Right. And I'm working with people now that maybe their credit isn't great. And so I'm trying to help them get their credit to a point where they can qualify for these 0 down or 3% down.
Yes.
I think a lot of people, again, it comes back to educating yourself and understanding that you can do a lot more with a lot less than you truly could ever imagine.
People are that lock-in effect with the low rate. It's very valid, but there's a big segment of those people that I'm seeing that are winning huge. I had somebody last week came out of a 2.625, and that's all they talked about. They were like, well, we have to move, but I'm going to regret forever, losing this 2.625. I said, well, you got seller concessions first, so we can buy your rate down. It's going to be down in the 5s, which is decent. Your payment's higher. Yes, it is. I said, but you're walking away with like $300,000 on your house in 2 years. That's tax-free.
Right.
He had a Mercedes payment. He had a couple of small credit cards, but the payments total were like $1,800. Well, his new mortgage was going to be $1,500 more than what his current mortgage is. I said, but you're eliminating $1,800 in debt, put a little less down.
Yeah.
So now they have a bigger home, a higher interest rate, and a higher payment, but they have no other debt. So the total going out of the household is less.
Sure.
That's the opportunity that people have in this market right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here to kind of educate people on. That's going to be my mission.
Yeah. And a lot of people, you know, they've never thought about being like a real estate management in and of itself, but like if you got into one of those low rates and you have a 265 and the price of your house is doubled, like you can pull cash out and go and buy something else and then rent your other house out for way more than your that low interest rate payment is. So like that's the house hacking that everybody talks about, but it's real. I mean, and I've coached some clients into doing that and not selling their house, but keeping it as a rental, which, you know, doesn't help me, but I'm helping them and realizing something that they didn't think was ever possible.
We did that for a little house down at the lake at Tullahoma, and it's nothing ginormous or nothing, but we took the equity line of credit to pay the down payment on that. So I bought the lake house with no money out of pocket.
Right.
And that little thing prints money, like $4,000 to $5,000 every month.
Yeah.
And it's gone up in value immensely. And we literally don't have any skin in the game. My wife manages it, gives us tax deductions, is nice.
I mean, even if you're breaking even, like you're still gaining equity on that house.
Yeah.
You're still growing something there. It's not like, you know, if you're just paying your mortgage payment, like it's more than that.
So I want to tell y'all one thing that you can do is you can reach out to Will. The Knox team, they're great at like talking about stuff like this and investing, and they have many different avenues you can invest.
Right.
And these are some of the best in Nashville, and there's other great agents out there, but I think people are apprehensive to approach a realtor because they're like, oh no, he's going to sell me a house, right? No.
Right.
Call Will up, DM him. Contact info will be below the YouTube here. Follow him and feel free to reach out to him and say, hey, I want to ask you some questions about a future move or this money that I inherited. And you can count on these people to not only be the experts, but you guys will always give people good, honest advice.
Yeah, I think we pride ourselves on that for sure.
I've heard you tell people not to buy a house.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
and that really means a lot. So I really appreciate you coming in here today.
Thanks for having me.
Any last things you want to say or tell people how to follow you?
No, this is great. You can find me on Instagram at WillAndrews_realtor, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
I never know. We'll tag it. Yeah. But yeah. And then Will at KnoxOpensDoors.com is my email. And, you know, sponsored by Smoothie King.
Yeah. Thank you, Smoothie King. So, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks.
And thanks. Please share the episode, like, subscribe, and follow Will. Okay. Make it a great day.
Thanks so much.